Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, powers taken, not given, joined as always by John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing great, my friend. And by great, I mean not great at all, because I'm having existential dread over TikTok leaving, and that sucks. But you know what? I still think it's not going to happen. That is I don't know if that's just my denial brain going, it's better for you in the short term if you don't think it's going to happen. But I don't know. It just does not feel like it can possibly actually go away because there's just too much money to be made on it. That's always been my stance.
It's my gut always told me it wasn't going away. My gut always said that. I'm operating as if it will, so I don't know, but I just if it does, it does, right? I mean, what are you going to do? This is just the way it is. So I haven't worried about it, honestly.
Yeah, because you are more heavily on TikTok than I am. So I'm surprised you're not as worried because you have less of a platform other places.
Well, because I have been like the last 3-4 months, I've been shifting to YouTube anyway. And like I was always planning on keeping TikTok around. I like it and everything, but it just made more sense to start doing more YouTube. And YouTube takes so much time. Any content creation takes time, but with YouTube doing, interviews on 3 technically different shows, this one, my own one, and then a podcast I do with like religion and stuff. I mean, you do a couple of those, and I don't feel like doing TikTok videos anymore. I've only done like 4 or 5 TikTok videos since Christmas or something, like actual TikTok. So I don't know. Maybe that's why it's not hitting me quite as hard because I was already.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I've been feeling very similar. Like the silver lining that I've been telling myself is, okay, when this goes away, I am very incentivized to make content for TikTok because A, that's my largest platform, and B, it's the only one that actually fucking pays me. And while I know that that's probably not the best avenue for long-term growth, ban or not, you know. It's you kind of you got to keep feeding it. And if I'm feeding TikTok, I'm not doing other things that I could be doing. And the other thing about TikTok is that I've just gotten so used to it. At this point is that the marginal utility of making a TikTok versus a YouTube video. Yeah, you're right. Like it's more intense to make a YouTube video, but it's not just that. It's that I've gotten to the point where I can pop out a TikTok from start to end that's pretty decently high quality in a single day. And I'm talking about like a high quality. I've done research. I did editing. I added footage, whatever. A YouTube video is just like, oh God, I got to do a whole other process. I got to figure it out. I got to figure out what format I want to use. I got to figure out all of these other questions. That I'm just like, fuck, I'll just make a TikTok. It's a lot easier. Without that drawing me, I do hope that I will actually commit myself to doing more. Like I have a fucking YouTube script written and I just haven't recorded it because it's just like, oh, well, how am I going to shoot it? How am I going to do all this? It's different. I don't know. And yeah, I'm complaining, but it's a real thing when like you do this for free on top of a full-time job and sacrifices must be made somewhere.
Yeah. It is a lot more work. Although I've done maybe 3 like honest to God YouTube videos, and they were pretty short. They were like 5 minutes or whatever. That was back when I was first starting to do them. But mainly I just do this. I do interviews and stuff because that's pretty easy to do. It takes minimal prep work, and thinking on the fly is something that I enjoy and it's fun. And I've noticed that. So my solo channel just got monetized like December or November, like pretty recently. And I've just noticed over the months, it's like same thing with this channel, honestly, that we need the lives are where it's at, that you do the lives and that the traffic just blows up from that. And then every now and then you'll have a regular video. I just cut those into pieces and post them just like ours. And so it's going somewhere, but it had to happen anyway. It does take a little more work, but I think it's worth it in the long run.
Speaking of doing lives, this is our live Q&A. So if anyone who's watching right now has any questions you'd like me and TJ to answer, this is your chance because you might not be able to ask them on our home platforms anymore. So this is the place to get us, guys. Get us while we're hot.
Oh, God. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like this is, I think Sunday. Is that the day that it's the last day supposedly for TikTok? And we'll see what happens.
Yep, we'll see what happens. It'll be really funny. Like if Trump saves this
I know,
thing.
right? I know.
It does seem to be the funniest outcome because Barron Trump said that people are talking good at him. on TikTok, and that is why it gets saved. I don't know. It seems weird. There's the senator, I feel like Jersey Democratic senator, who voted for the TikTok ban, but is now putting forward legislation to delay the TikTok ban, which like it feels a lot like Real ID to me, how like this has been a thing for 20 years. It's coming, guys. I promise. TikTok might just be in a perpetual state of about to be banned.
It'd be one more thing to add on the pile of how badly the Democrats have governed and handled PR. You know, there's no reason that, because I try to argue, we've talked about this before, where we talk about that if Trump ends up saving TikTok, how that's going to look good for him to the people. And that I heard a lot of people say, well, you know, that was a Republican bill to ban TikTok, and you can't blame it on the Democrats. Yes, we can.
No, it fucking wasn't. That was a Democrat-led effort. I don't want to hear.
I heard it was a Republican. Oh, really? I didn't know. I heard that was a Republican bill. But who wrote the bill? That's what. I'll
maybe
check. I mean,
it was like. But if Biden is supporting it, Biden does not support many things. Like Biden's presidency ethos is to stand on the sidelines and let other people do legislative work, which fine, I disagree with it, but that's his ethos. So if he's getting behind something like he did with this bill, it's a fucking Democrat bill. I don't give a shit who actually authored it.
Right. And what I will point to is that it was sure, if it was authored by a Republican, fine, but Democrats in the House overwhelmingly supported it. It got through with Democrat support. The Democrats controlled the Senate. They had to vote for it in order for it to get out of the Senate at all. The Democrats overwhelmingly voted for it in the Senate, and it was signed by a Democratic president. So what do you want us to say? Right?
Biden vetoed it like that. Could have snapped his fingers. It is dead. It's not going anywhere, and he didn't want to.
You
gotta wonder why.
Yeah,
and it's very frustrating. TJ, I made a TikTok about this. Might be probably one of my last TikToks of if we like in my mind. The biggest thing that is problematic about China from like early on in my life, what I was taught was that they don't have free speech, that their government controls their internet. It doesn't let them access the American internet. And that was always said to me to be a bad thing. And it's insane to me how Americans have just flipped on it. And like, oh no, that's totally cool that China does that. It's national security. Totally okay. And I'm just like, where did everyone's fucking backbone go? I swear to God, people act like we never had freedom of speech in this country and it never fucking mattered.
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? They flip on China? I'm not sure what you're saying.
Because like people will say, yeah, no, I support the TikTok ban for national security purposes. And
okay.
That's why China fucking bans all of our shit. So are you cool with that? And they're like, they bite the bullet now. They're just like, yeah, makes sense. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening to Americans?
I am intrigued by any Americans who say, yeah, we support the TikTok ban. Because it's like, why? I've yet to hear any good reason for this, honestly. Listen, if there's a good reason, I would love to hear it. I just haven't seen one yet. It's just that, they're collecting your data and the Chinese government is evil. It's like, all right, that applies here as well. Nothing that doesn't apply to us, is being offered. So that's just odd. I'm just waiting for that. And just for the PR standpoint, I don't know what they plan on gaining from this. I just don't realize it at all. Oh, we're speaking of this. All right. Speaking of other platforms, we mentioned during the backstage that the other platforms are trying to catch up with TikTok because TikTok's algorithm is incredible. That's really the thing that's driving it and making it successful. That your Chinese spy that they have assigned to you is doing a great job feeding you the exact content you want, content that you will find interesting. I'll tell you who's doing a bad job with that. Meta with Instagram. I cannot stand Instagram. Open Instagram right now, start scrolling through it. 5 out of the first 7 posts you see will be ads or recommended pages, shit that I'm not interested in at all. I barely see the stuff my friends post anymore or at all. So I just hate it. I hate Instagram Reels. I hate the posting of it. It's just a terrible platform.
So I don't know if I agree with you necessarily. I don't personally like Instagram as much either, but it does at least have some advantages over TikTok. Like I feel like I have much more ability to communicate with my audience and my followers on Instagram than I do on TikTok. I feel like TikTok is just releasing things into the ether, and Instagram is a little bit more community focused. I can have different levels of content. I can actually have a conversation in the comments, which is a thing that TikTok has just refused to do over the course of its entire existence. And that pisses me off. I don't know. It's all going to suck, TJ. Like we have entered this era where there's just going to be 10,000 different apps. There's not going to be any unified public square. And that's honestly exactly what they fucking want.
Really? See, that's interesting because, I know the apps and everything. I kind of don't like the fact that there are no websites or apps anymore. There's like 3 that people use. People use Google, they use YouTube, they use TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, maybe Facebook.
When was it ever different?
Well, back in the old days, Chuck. So back in like the primitive days of the internet, there were thousands. You would hop on and you would literally web surf. You would look at different websites all over the place. It didn't start consolidating until Facebook, really. I wouldn't even, MySpace, I guess, was the first big one where everyone used it. But I mean, there was like 10 years of internet before that where we were just, jumping around, finding cool shit. Just interesting, out of the way websites. No one really goes there. You just go to the same 3 or 4 every single day. I find that kind of bland, but that's just old man TJ talking here. I don't really like that.
I understand what you're talking about because like I did it, I was alive for that. But my argument to that is that those weren't really public squares. That like we still have independent message boards you can go to that probably have the same amount of fucking people on them. It was just a very small audience in each of those little fiefdoms that still exist today. It's just when you compare them to the mega audiences of TikTok and Facebook, they don't seem very big. But they're probably the same size as they were back then because there's so fewer people interacting on the internet.
There's no way, because I would have been on there. Like I would have been on those small little message boards. I'm on 0 now, and I can't be the only one,
fair.
right?
I mean, that's fair.
I don't go to any. So I would imagine a lot of them just don't exist. So, we should get to the comments here.
This is our Q&A show, by the way, folks. We do technically say that we'll engage.
I know, right? Oh, come on. Let's talk about Crockett and Mace. Please tell me y'all saw it. I want to see that fight. I don't know what you're talking about. Is that Nancy Mace?
I saw that quickly pop up, and we're going to do a blind reaction here because we all know a friend of the show, Nancy Mace.
Oh, yeah.
Jasmine Crockett, who I don't know too much about. But this was an argument between the 2 representatives started on as the House voted to ban transgender athletes from women's sports in federally funded institutions. And she essentially told Nancy Mace told Jasmine Crockett that she'll take it outside. So we'll
really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying.
Mute your microphone, John.
Oh, that'll do it.
So that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all
I
to
am
tell
no
me
child.
whether or
Do
not
call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I'm 47 years
females
old. I have broken
actually
more
have
glass ceilings than
Chairman,
you.
I
Order,
am
please.
reclaiming my
Let's go.
time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a
Chairman,
child.
I am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order. Point of order.
I love it.
Boy. Oh God.
I love it. TJ, what are your thoughts?
I'm usually not one for you see these rules of decorum in the House and the Senate and everything. You're not allowed to call people names, not allowed to call them a liar. You have to address them as gentlemen and gentle lady and stuff like that. I've never been a big fan of those, but as time's gone on, I kind of get it. Because you ever see videos of, I don't know, the Taiwanese or Singaporean parliament, and they're getting into fist fights on the floor. I mean, that happened here in the United States back in the 1800s. People would get into actual physical altercations. So it does make for decent comedy when it happens in our country, but I hope it stops there. I can easily see it actually escalating. But Nancy Mace, I can't stand. I just can't stand her because she jumped at the opportunity. She's great at finding a way to make herself the victim. She's a professional victim. So, she called me child. Let's go. And what are you going to do?
I am not a child. Followed by let's have a fist fight.
Yeah.
It's such an incredibly not self-aware sequence of sentences to say out loud in public that it's perfect for Nancy Mace. But I would argue, I think that yes, it's embarrassing, to fucking be an adult and say, let's have a fist fight. Like that's just embarrassing. That being said, the ideology that a lot of these conservatives spout don't find that to be embarrassing. So what? I wouldn't mind them putting their money where their mouth is. Like there should be more like pay-per-view congressional fistfights for charity. It's just a waste of time and money that we aren't raising money for charity by having Congress people fight each other. In fact, that should also be a requirement of the presidency. You must fight your opponent, and you'll raise $1 trillion for the charity of the winner's choice. I've always thought this, TJ. It's an absurd thing that I think I would actually support in real life.
I tell you what I would support. That does sound entertaining. I can't deny that, and I would pay to watch those fights too.
Right. We would all do it.
Right. I'm not going to pretend that I have risen above the indelible stamp of our lowly nature as simple, animals and everything. But one thing that I would like, I'm going more on the civility thing here, is that, or I would like it if congressional hearings and sessions were no longer televised. I would actually really like that, because that's why we have this kind of stuff. If there were no cameras, there would be a lot less grandstanding, because they know people can watch these clips and these clips can go viral. They can use them in their commercials. A lot harder to do when you just release transcripts. Hey, you want to find out what happened in the meeting? Go ahead, read all 40 pages. People ain't going to do it. And it's a lot harder to, sensationalize it on places like this, where let's read what happened today in Congress. It's not going to happen. So that's like a serious thing. I would actually do that, because you want the information, you can find it, but I'm not going to allow these people to be cartoon characters to get a few extra votes in their districts.
I agree on that. Scott C. also asked if this show is on Blue Sky yet. Scott C., this show is not on Blue Sky. It is on other platforms such as TikTok and Instagram, and we don't do a good enough job of promoting content on there. TJ mostly does all of it. I barely do any of it, and TJ does a decent job. But we should really start doing that more.
We should.
Of actually using the left-wing social media accounts.
It takes so much time. We were just talking about that earlier. It's just to promote and cutting those little clips, adding captions or whatever. It only takes, 10 minutes maybe to actually get everything you like. But imagine doing that for every episode and other episodes and making your content somewhere else. I don't know. It just gets tedious, So I'll do it for like a week or two.
If you want to come on as our unpaid intern and cut the clips and post them to our socials, we've always loved the idea of someone doing that for us, because as TJ said, God, when you it isn't that big in and of itself, but when you do everything that we do, it's just so tedious and it sucks. And maybe eventually we'll do it, but
I want to pull this up too. You're talking. I was trying to find this while you were playing the clip, but Nancy Mace posted this. When was this? January 11th. So 3 days ago. Men do not belong in women's bathrooms, period. She does one of these like every other day. And she just, keeps talking about shitting and everything and keeping men. She is just so genuinely obnoxious. And you could say that for a lot of people in Congress. And I hate the fact that it's rewarded. I really do. I hate the fact that whether she believes this or not doesn't matter. She knows that she can sensationalize this topic and draw attention to her horrible behavior, and she's only going to be rewarded for it. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene has paid no price for being 10 times worse than Nancy Mace, as bad as she is. And Lauren Boebert, it looked like she was going to pay a price, didn't. She's still in Congress, even though she had switched districts. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we have no incentive to make these people act like regular human beings. We just don't. And it's kind of sad.
TJ, hot take. I know that this is like very controversial.
Okay.
I don't believe in regional representation at all at the federal level. It makes no fucking sense to me. I don't understand why someone who's setting federal laws needs to be from a certain geographic location. It blows my mind. All of Congress should be at large voting. I've never understood why my interests living in Pennsylvania need to be specifically stated by this one person. All of the decisions made at the federal level should be for the greater good of all Americans, not individuals making decisions for the greater good of people they happen to live by.
I've never thought about this at all. Actually, I've never heard this proposed. I'd have to think about that. About like why it's necessary to have representatives from certain districts in certain states, and why every state needs to be represented. Yeah, I don't know. I actually never thought about this. I'd have to give this some thought. I think it comes down to a lot of the reasons that we have these problems is that our entire system is kind of outdated. I mean, honestly, the fact that we have 50 states at all, unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Yeah. Like, I get why it happened in the beginning, but we don't really need, but they're there now. And so the states would never, I mean, it's kind of a non-starter because the states would never go for that. The states would, because they would need to ratify the Constitution to do it, and the states aren't going to give up their representation. Yeah, so that's interesting though. I never heard. That's a good thought, John.
Yeah, it's never going to happen, but so are like half the things we talk about on this show that we should do. So like, I don't think that's disqualifying to care about something. Huge ass, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controls Applications Act was introduced by Mike Gallagher, Republican, Wisconsin. Okay, huge ass. I just put this up there. Oh, is this the TikTok ban bill? It was
a Democrat, okay.
By a Republican and a Democrat. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, I blame Joe Biden. That's the person I blame, and you can like say whatever you want about that, but he had the power to veto it, and he did not. So he had ultimate control over whether this was a wall or not. He decided that it was. I
brought that up with some people I was arguing with on TikTok that they say, well, we can't blame the Democrats for the TikTok ban because it was from the Republicans. I said, well, listen, it was signed by a Democratic president. You know what they said? They said, well, it passed the Senate like by 84 votes. So he would have just been overridden anyway. And I said, so what? So what? I just like
show some fucking leadership. Be like, Democratic senators, I dare you oppose me on this. Like it's like they don't believe the president has influence. It's unbelievable.
I wrote down. I was thinking of topics for the main show on Thursday, and one of them I wrote down was Joe Biden's legacy. And then I thought I put a question mark because I was like, why bother? Honestly, like why bother? It was like Joe Biden could have been better than that. I mean, honestly, we knew who Joe Biden was, but just taking any well, you know what? He took a stance on the Afghanistan war. He did. Like that took balls, and that was unpopular, and he did it. But other times, no, like this one. Then again, it's not like he did it out of, they twisted his arm. He wanted to ban TikTok too, I'm sure. Yeah. But I just can't believe how often people are coddling the most powerful man on earth. They say, oh, well, you can't blame Biden for this. It's not Biden's fault. Don't be so hard on Joe Biden. All right, you guys weren't, we lost. That's what you got. Congratulations. But
the president needs to use the power of the veto more. Like, make him do the work. It's like in like football, if you have like any ounce of chance of winning, you don't just kneel the ball. You keep running a play. Even if you know you're going to lose, you run a fucking like Hail Mary pass play. Even if you're down 2 scores with 10 seconds to go, you don't just kneel the ball. You keep trying the whole way through. Well, this is a hell of a lot more important than a football game. So why not pull out every single stop that you possibly can? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and at signal, even if you know you're losing, even if like you've met with every senator and they said, no, we're passing this 100-0. It's going through. Fuck you. If I don't like it, I'm still vetoing it because I want to signal to the people who support me, look, I did everything in my power to stop this. I couldn't. But if you just let them walk all over you, like that's why people like Donald Trump. That people, when you talk to a lot of people who support Donald Trump, most of them aren't terribly well informed about politics in the first place, and they're not the brightest bulbs out there. But they do appreciate the fact that Trump is a fighter. They love the fact that Trump, tangentially agrees with them on some bigoted issues or whatever stupid ideas. But Trump goes out there and he says, no, I'm going to be on TV every minute that I can, yelling that this needs to happen. I'm going to be insulting people, berating people, doing whatever I need to do to try to represent your interest in the White House, whether I win or lose. Did anyone feel that from Joe Biden? Did anyone? I mean, on our side, I didn't feel that. It was pretty wishy-washy.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel it at all. In fact, we're talking about conspiracy theories, and this isn't so much a conspiracy theory because it's not.
Okay.
But it is a theory that I believe way more strongly than evidence would indicate.
Okay.
But I really think that corporate talk, HR talk, whatever you want to call it, that HR speak, that language that we have learned to understand because of our reliance on these fucking archaic, not even archaic. Archaic's not the right word, but just mind-numbingly soul-sucking customer service representation where everyone we're dealing with in our everyday life has utterly no accountability to us, and it's impossible to ever speak to a human being, I think that's cooked us. I think that's cooked our brains, and we so intrinsically hate it and know that there's nothing we can do about it. But when we hear politicians give politicians speak now, it just instantly reminds us of that everyday hell of life that we go through. And it shuts our brains off and makes us hate whatever they're saying. And I feel like Democrats in general use that speak all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump, he fucking doesn't. I don't like, people are like, oh, he's an asshole. He says the things you're not supposed to say. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I think just not talking like you are washing your words through a fucking focus group,
right,
is the key that I don't understand why more politicians haven't really emulated. We got plenty of Republican assholes emulating just being a jackass. John Fetterman is also emulating just being a jackass. But I feel like you could do this without that. I actually feel like Pete Buttigieg is actually a pretty decent example of a Democrat who doesn't do that and talks like a normal fucking human when he speaks. AOC the same way. It's hard to think of too many examples, but like they're all the top communicators of our party.
I think Buttigieg is kind of like a hybrid, because I think
he's a hybrid. Yeah, he does both.
Yeah, he does talk that way, but the way he delivers it doesn't sound robotic as a normal politician, or as dry. And Biden does it too. Then again, I guess I can give Biden a pass. He's 80 years old, but man, you're 50 and you're doing that. Why? They still think it's 1998, where every politician sounded like that, and that was just the script, and that's how you acted. And it's like, no, people enjoy personality. People really like that. That gets you really far in life. I guess it works in politics too, since most of them are that way. Most of them are that way, where you just don't have a personality. But those who do are the ones that stand out. Those are the politicians that, and then it can be weaponized pretty awfully, like Nancy Mace, people like that and everything. But yeah, I don't know if that's so much of a conspiracy. You're right, but it's just, an unfortunate reality of the situation. But since you brought it up, John, let's start talking about our favorite conspiracies, or some that you really like. Did you think of any?
Yes. So one conspiracy I thought of, which I wanted to go with something that isn't talked about all the time.
Yeah.
But chiropractors are fucking bullshit. It's all a fucking lie. This isn't even political. I don't believe that chiropractic is fucking medicine. It is bullshit. It is pseudoscience. They take some research to like, oh, this works, it cracks, it pops, it feels good, and then it doesn't feel good anymore, because it's basically a fucking massage for your joints. Like it is not real medicine. People treating it like it's real medicine blows my fucking mind. It is equally medical as fucking acupuncture. That is my conspiracy theory that I'm pretty sure no one saw coming, but that is the hill I'm going to die on today.
All right. So about that, I'm glad you brought that one up. That one didn't cross my mind, but it's great because first off, they hate it when you call it chiropractic. They don't like that. They call it chiropractic. They for some reason, they get really insulted if you say chiropractic. They know it's chiropractic, but chiropractic is junk. It's, by the way, John, it's pseudoscience. You said pseudo before. I don't know why you pronounce it that way, but it's I don't know.
You're telling me this. You're telling me this is the first time I'm hearing it, TJ.
No, you said it before.
I have. This is one of those words that I know I say wrong, and I just forget that I say it wrong, and then I say it wrong again. But no, you're right.
No, I've just never, never mind. But anyway, it's just that also another correction, chiropractic is actually less scientific than acupuncture. Acupuncture is a little more. Yeah, acupuncture, like there are studies to show the benefits of acupuncture in some way. Chiropractic doesn't have that at all. Acupuncture is like barely passable for medicine. Chiropractic, nothing at all. And it's also kind of insane too that they're just snapping like your neck and everything. You've seen these videos where people take like dogs and babies to chiropractors, and they're making tons of money. And I remember seeing, they're all Republicans too, by the way. If you look at these charts,
I've never made this connection before. I never realized this was a thing, but it makes a lot of sense.
It does. And because I I didn't make the connection, but I knew chiropractors when I was at church, when I was a kid. I knew that a lot of the people in churches were chiropractors, or we had a lot of chiropractors in the church, and they always were pretty wealthy with their businesses. And I noticed that a lot of people who go tend to be conservative. But then I saw one of those charts, where the circles of this amount of carpenters, and it's blue and it's red. Chiropractors, like giant red circles. Yep, that makes sense. It's Republicans and conservatives are big fans of like mythical nonsense medicine. They say, well, we don't trust big pharma, so we're going to trust these supplements and these alpha brain pills and the colloidal silver and not take vaccines. Like they hate the idea of science and medicine in general, which is why they fall for this nonsense. So yeah, chiropractic is a pretty good one.
So I want to address that real quick because I feel like, at least when I was growing up in like the 2000s, if you were to say like which side is more associated with, pseudoscience, naturalistic healing and all that sort of stuff, I would have said that that's more associated with like the hippie left-wingish movement, which I guess the hippies all grew up to become fucking Republicans. So like,
yeah, they're all libertarians. Yeah,
but like, I don't know. It's just an interesting flip because the fascists love the occult and all that. So there's definitely something there. I don't know what it is though, because plenty of fucking lefties fall for this kind of bullshit too. But chiropractors do seem to be probably because they're so expensive. like it's probably a socioeconomic thing more than it is a fucking political ideology thing.
It depends because like doctors, there are like, depending on your field, that will kind of predict what your political affiliations will be. So like if you're just a regular family practice doctor, you're more likely to be blue. But if you're a surgeon, you're more likely to be red. And if you're a dentist, you're more likely to be red. And
that's 100%. Yep.
Yeah. It's depending on whatever field they're in. And honestly, what it comes down to is how much you interact with people, or if you see the people as machines to work on, like surgeons essentially see people as cars. You just cut them open and you fix it and you get it done. You don't really have to sit down and talk to them for a long time like regular doctors are. I don't know, that's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying? That. But yeah, so that's a good one. One I wanted to bring up, so I wanted to go with some obscure ones too, or some interesting ones. Have you ever heard of the hollow earth theory? Have you ever heard of that one?
I have heard of it, but I'm not versed in it.
Yeah, so this comes from like I'd say the 1800s, well, at least the 1800s it was around. I don't know when it started or whatever, but I first learned about this when I read Journey to the Center of the Earth as a kid. And if you guys read that book, it talks about, going down into the Earth's crust and everything, a couple miles. And when they get there, there's a sun inside the earth, and there's animals and dinosaurs, an entire ecosystem. And I'm reading this book as a junior high school student or something. And I was like, why did they say that? Why would they say there's a sun and a sky in the middle of the earth? It was like a theory that went around for a while, because you guys remember, people didn't know what was in the center of the earth until pretty recently. Like the science of seismology and geology were still essentially in their infancy until a couple hundred years ago. But a lot of people, I was thinking this with the flat earth folks, like the people who think the earth is flat. Some think the earth is essentially like a donut. There are these stories you can find on YouTube, looking around for creepy stuff. And people talk about how, I was a pilot and I went to the North Pole and there was a giant hole in the ground. You could fly into it. But yeah, that's a wild one. What do you think about that one,
John? I think that it's a fun one. It's harmless. So like I will always entertain a harmless conspiracy theory. When you start saying like, I don't know, the fucking Jewish mole people hollowed out the earth, that's where conspiracy theories start to get dangerous. But it's not just like, like King Kong lives down there and Godzilla, and fuck, why not believe it? People believe there's a fucking magic man in the sky that controls every aspect of your life. So yeah, I'm fine with a hollow earth. That works for me. What is like the evidence put forward for this theory?
Oh, it looks a lot like the flat earth stuff, honestly. Okay. Yeah, those people, it's not exactly an overlap, but there's a kinship involved where, it doesn't really mean anything. And so like I guess it technically is harmless. I guess technically it is, but it really bothers me because people people like ignoring science and ignoring reality. You brought this up, John. You do this in a major area long enough, you're going to start to do it in other areas. That's just how your brain works now. So like for a long time, I would, in the Facebook days, I argue with people who were creationists and stuff. And people was like, why do you waste time arguing about this religion thing, or who cares if they believe in evolution or not? I was like, folks, you guys don't understand. You weren't in the shit like I was. I know these people. I know how they think, and this is going to come get us. I didn't think it would be this bad because they're in charge now. They're essentially running the show. We live in a conspiriocracy where everyone that has the levers of power is detached from reality. So I guess technically, like in a vacuum, it's harmless, but it still bothers me that people believe this shit for no good reason.
So the conspiracy theory that I think I've said this before on the show, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but conspiracy theory that I 100% believe to be true, that I don't have proof is true, is that the flat earth conspiracy theory is an op. It is an op to make real conspiracy theories sound fake. And it just makes too much, because it just like exploded. Like flat eartherism is a thing that has existed since the beginning of time. And originally it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
If you're just looking around, Earth seems pretty flat,
especially
depending on where you live, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it should just all be flat. Makes sense. We've then discovered that the Earth is round. Incontrovertible evidence that the Earth is round. When I was growing up, as I said, in like the 90s, early 2000s, it was just like, oh, haha, these dumb people, And then at some point in like the 2010s, it just gained steam out of nowhere, where like suddenly like flat earthers became a noun that we use to describe a group of people that actually existed. And I believe it's a fucking op. I combine it with dead internet theory. It's mostly fucking bots. It's not real fucking people that actually believe the Earth is fucking flat. Like, there's no fucking way. I don't believe you.
Look, I think I was exactly where you were until very recently, because
are you a flat earther now, DJ?
I know, right? Yeah. Because surprise, folks, you heard it here first. The Earth that's a frisbee planet we're on. No, it's that once again, like we always heard, we made fun of flat earthers. I was in a religious conservative Christian community. Like if you were to find flat earthers, that's where you would find them. I never met one. I never saw a person who even who considered the idea that the Earth was flat. Because once again, folks, we prove human beings found out that the Earth was round like 3,000 years ago. This is not. People tell you we need to adhere to the wisdom of the ancients. The ancients found out the Earth was round. What was it? Eratosthenes, I think his name was a Greek mathematician who did the calculations. Very simple ones, by the way. It's not even complex math that he used to prove that the Earth was round. He also calculated the circumference of the moon and the circumference of the sun, and he was off by like 2% or something when we actually could do it scientifically. So, ancient mariners and cartographers, and the Earth is round. This is not something that's up for debate. So I said, yeah, there's no way people actually believe this. And as time went on, I started seeing more and more people like you did, John, popping up the internet and saying this. And I thought, oh, they're just trolling. They're just doing this for fun or whatever. But recently, man, like I met a couple people in real life who were flat earthers, and I said, oh, so not everyone is trolling. They really do think this. Now, that doesn't mean it's not an op. It doesn't, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
So you've met people in real life that are flat earthers,
buddy. Man, I'm not going to tell the whole story. I'm not going to tell but last year, I have a barber who's from Cameroon. No, Benin. He's from Benin, West Africa. And he goes out of town. My barber, by the way, has like 4 master's degrees. The guy owns businesses in France and in West Africa, and he doesn't need to work. And so he's just a barber. He's so cool. It's cool as fuck.
Awesome.
That's so
awesome.
Right. It's so goddamn cool. Yeah. And he travels. He will leave for months at a time to go to Europe or to Africa to watch over check on his businesses or stuff, or visit family and everything. So when he's gone, I got to find another barber. I got to find someone else to cut my hair. And there's a barber shop like less than a mile from where I live. And I will go there on occasion to get my hair cut. And these folks, they have the conspiracies all the time. They're kind of crazy. And I would argue with them and everything. One guy said that he thought the Earth was flat. And I said, okay, I was sick of arguing with this dude already. He was so misogynist and everything. And then I went back to the barbershop and I told them why I didn't come back because of that guy, because he mentioned that he thought the Earth was flat. And the barber next to me says, oh, well, I think the earth is flat. And so I started arguing with this person. And 10 minutes later, the person cutting my hair also said he believed the earth was flat. 2 in the same room, John, the same fucking room. I was going over the fact that, well, I asked them, hey, when you knock something off a table, why does it fall down instead of up? And they started talking about density. I said, no, what is the force acting on the object to make it fall? And they said, well, of course it's going to, I know it's going to fall, but why? Why is it happening? And I said, well, here's my theory. It wasn't my theory. It's Isaac Newton's theory that everything you imagine, gravity draws everything toward the center of the earth. So you imagine that it has like a bungee cord hooked to everything on the planet, and it pulls you toward the center of the earth at roughly 9.8 meters per second squared. This explains everything. This explains why the earth is round, because everything is drawn toward the center of the earth, including the earth itself. It explains why the moon revolves around the earth, why the earth revolves around the sun, all of that. It explains everything. I've yet to hear a theory from either of you to explain this. 45 minutes. I asked, like, why is the sun upside down in Australia? Like, why? Why does this happen? But they left. It's like, nah, man, you made some good points. It's like, I know, because the earth is round. But at the end, they said, yeah, I don't know.
I know they are. They've been around for 3,000 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have seen them in real life. And so now that doesn't mean it's not an op. I can't prove whether it is or it isn't. But
the op is effective also at its substantive goal instead of its just like actual goal.
But the thing is, does it need to be one though? Because like I can see a universe where folks, because like honestly, I thought about this for months. Honestly, I did a whole video. I'll send it to you. I had a whole video talking about this very thing. And then I thought, well, I'm mad at these people, but think about it. If you ask the average person who believed the earth is round, how do you know that? Like, how do you know the earth is round? Like, I bet you half of them couldn't give you a good reason other than that's what they've been taught. Like they couldn't tell you like scientifically how we found out the earth was round or how they could prove it. A good chunk of people couldn't do that. So if that's your starting point, someone comes along with some slick lines telling you why the earth is flat. You're like, oh yeah, the government's lied about a bunch of stuff. Maybe they're lying about this. I can see how it happened.
So it's funny because there's another conspiracy theory. Birds aren't real.
Yes.
And birds aren't real is a conspiracy. It's performance art of a conspiracy theory. And if you've probably heard of it, it's very famous where like they just started saying birds aren't real. They'd go on local news programs and just pretend to believe that birds aren't real and point to all of the signs that birds aren't real. And it became a massive fucking thing. They sold merch, they did everything. And it's just like, they pretended that it was true and the news treated them as if they were a real conspiracy theory. And like they got people to believe that birds weren't real, even though they knew the whole time it was never like, not like at least put somewhere that this was a fucking art piece, that like people still ended up being convinced by it. And I feel like what you mentioned this on the show the other day, how like there's slang that you started saying ironically that you then incorporated unironically into your vocabulary. And I feel like that's how a lot of conspiracy theory believers start, where it's like, oh yeah, earth is flat, haha, bro. And then like, oh no, I kind of think the earth is flat. And then like, yo, dude, have you seen this 3-hour-long YouTube video explaining why the earth is flat? Like that's exactly how it goes, I feel like.
It's also, I think a lot of it comes to because your average person isn't particularly smart, right? It doesn't mean they're dumb, right? It doesn't mean they're dumb, but there's nothing uniquely intelligent about them, right? And people love thinking other people believing they're smart. People love it. Yeah. They will go to great lengths to show them how intelligent you are. Now, fortunately for folks like us, we don't have a problem with this. They tell us, they volunteer the information like, oh, you guys are really smart. So that's great. And I know it feels good too. Now, if you never hear that, you know why. People are like, oh, okay, people don't think I'm all that bright. So if you can get a hold of this esoteric knowledge, this, well, actually, you think that the president is a human being, but he's actually a reptile. Now you know something that they don't, and you feel better about yourself. I want to do 2 things real quick. Man, guys, I'm so sorry we didn't get to these, but Trees Top, love you so much. You mentioned that I don't know how else will we observe a curve over the horizon. You actually don't. That's actually, so don't use that when arguing with a flat earther. You, from ground level, you cannot actually see the curve on the horizon. Your eye, it's too far. The earth is too big for that. In order to actually see, you can't even see it from a plane, honestly. You have to be really high to see the curvature of the earth. You got to be essentially in space, which you can use the moon for the example because you can see it on the moon, but anything like you can't see, that looks like it dips below the horizon, it actually is too far away. You can't see it, honestly. I want to pull up this video. John, I don't know if you heard about the people going to Antarctica for the 24-hour sun. This is right before Christmas when this happened.
Oh, yeah. I hear about this. Yeah.
So I want to play that clip. So for those of you wondering what I'm talking about, on a flat Earth, you cannot have a 24-hour sun, right? You can't do it. It's not going to happen. So there was this guy, I don't know his name, but he invited a flat earther to go to Antarctica. And he said that, listen, you go to Antarctica, you will see the sun in the sky for 24 hours. That disproves every current model of a flat earth theory. And the flat earther actually went there to see what was going on. So here's the clip right here. Let me see.
Sometimes you are wrong in life. And I thought that there was no 24-hour sun. In fact, I was pretty sure of it. But I respect Will Duffy for being a stand-up guy, at least in the way that he kept saying it was true. I kept saying it wasn't. He said, "Do you want to go? I'll take you," and brought me here. And it's a fact. The sun does circle you in the south. So what does that mean? You guys are going to have to figure that out yourself. Don't listen to my beliefs or my opinion. It shouldn't matter to you. But at least you should be able to accept that the sun does exactly what these guys said as far as circles the southern continent. So that's about it. I realize that I'll be called a shill for just saying that. And you know what? If you're a shill for being honest, so be it. I honestly believe there was no 24-hour sun. I honestly now believe there is. That's it. If you want to.
So what I'm so sad about this clip is that beforehand, there's a guy, the Round Earth guy, says, yeah, so I'm introducing to you Will Duffy. He hosts one of the largest flat Earth shows on YouTube. And the guy in the background is like, well, it's not going to be big very long. You hear him kind of muttering under his breath. But I appreciate, it's hard to say appreciate the honesty. What are you going to say? That he saw they recorded it. The sun circled them for 24 hours because the planet's fucking round. And he got to say, yeah, you know what? He didn't say the Earth was round because he was just proved wrong. He's like, well, we need to change our model or something like that. But I can't believe we still have folks like this and that they still think they're just 2025 and people still think the Earth is flat.
Yeah, it is annoying. And also, like, of all the conspiracy theories out there, it's like the least fucking interesting. Like the fucking, even like Bush did 9/11, fantastically interesting. It has so many broad-reaching implications. But like, what is the implication of the Earth is flat? Like, what who benefits off of this? What crazy, like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's dumb. Was there any other conspiracies you want to talk about?
I wanted to bring up dinosaurs still exist. I was taught as a kid that dinosaurs still existed. These are like cryptids that you hear about. Yeah, so I was taught
as a child that dinosaurs still existed.
Yeah. So I grew up a creationist, and so you have creationists like Ken Ham and what's the other guy's name? Kent Hovind, and they went around to Christian schools. I never saw them in person, but they had videos we listened to, and they don't believe in evolution. They don't believe anything like that. So they got to come up with a reason that dinosaurs aren't around anymore, right? Like, what happened to them? And they said that dinosaurs actually never went extinct. Noah brought small dinosaurs or baby dinosaurs on the ark with him, and they stayed around for a long time. And every time you read a story about a dragon, that's actually a dinosaur. That's actually the medieval people talking about dinosaurs, and they would show.
That's a good one. I don't believe in that conspiracy theory, but that is a very solid one.
Well,
that is mostly maybe based in reality of they found dinosaur bones and thought it was a dragon, and that's why.
That's a little different.
Culture to culture, but yeah, actually saw the dragon. No.
They would bring up these drawings from Native American tribes. Like, if you squint, that kind of looks like a pterodactyl. So maybe pterodactyls were here 200 years ago. There is a cryptid in the Congo called Mokele Mbembe, and they said that the native population there would draw it. It kind of looks like a brontosaurus or an apatosaurus. It's not called brontosaurus anymore. Mokele Mbembe, if it exists, is most likely a large monitor lizard. And what they would refer to is that cryptozoology is fun and interesting, but it's mostly nonsense, is that sometimes cryptids turn out to be real. One of which is like the silverback mountain gorilla that people living in Central Africa would tell, Europeans that, yeah, there's this giant ape that lives in the forest that weighs like 600 pounds. Get the fuck out of here. You guys are joking around and shit. The mountain gorilla wasn't found out by like European stuff like 1910 or something. They didn't know gorillas existed. And so they'll point to that and say, aha, that's real. So are these other dinosaurs and shit. So I grew up and learned that one. So yeah, I know, kind of goofy, but a lot of folks still think that.
My this isn't like conspiracy theory, but it's along the same lines of if some alien species exists and we discover them, they're far more likely to be in the ocean than they are in space. And that's not saying there aren't aliens in space. I'm saying that if aliens exist that are logistically possible for us to discover,
okay,
they're far more likely to be in the ocean because most of our ocean is unexplored. And wild shit pops up there. Because what you said, like, oh, it turns out to be real, like giant fucking squids. That was like the Kraken. We don't have proof it doesn't exist. We'll put it that way. Like, we have found some big fucking squids that sometimes come up to our level that we can reach. And there's a hell of a lot beneath that. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. They were right about the giant squid. You're correct. The funny thing is that the giant squid was discovered, and then they discovered a bigger squid, and they called it the colossal squid. I thought that was very funny. The giant squid is like significantly smaller or whatever, but that is a good one. They used to think manatees were mermaids. Have you saw that whenever they saw manatees in the Western Hemisphere,
where the mermaids came from? I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, mermaids existed before that, like in folklore, but they saw the manatees and they said, "Oh, look, it's got this long torso and like human." Like, I don't see the human.
I thought the mermaids to be a little sexier, but I don't know. We're men who've been at sea with each other for the past 6 months.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, these guys they go more. Giants in the Smithsonian. I don't know if you ever heard about that one. That people thought that the Smithsonian had the skulls of giants and they hid them from the public to keep them from God, of course. I don't know if you ever heard the one about hydrolysis. I always heard people talk about this when I was a kid, that someone discovered a way to operate a car burning water instead of burning gas. And then the government showed up and stole the documents away from them on how to build it because they didn't want to wreck the oil companies and shit. And I remember things like, well, someone could figure it out. Like, he could just do it again, right? I mean, with nothing stopping him, he figured it out once. Taking the paperwork away wouldn't stop that. He could tell anyone at any time. I don't know. You ever hear shit like that?
Yeah, I've heard that. So there's some that like that one feel like the doing it from water is dumb because anyone could figure that out. Like, if we can do it, we would have figured it out by now. But like, it's one of those ones that stem from truth because like there is a shitload. It's not even just the government, but like a shitload of way that corporations, they could make products that like would actually be much better for us, and they don't for profit reasons. So like that does feel like something that is along the lines of truth, of like how fucking oil companies don't power their own internal like systems with oil. They often use alternative energy sources because it's cheaper for them to use. But then they like promote oil and make us use that because it's, the fucking worst. But yeah, I believe that one in terms of believability. You could sell me on it.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that what these conspiracy theories, this is the thing with conspiracy theories you gotta remember here, is that yes, a lot of conspiracies turn out to be true. Like MK Ultra, that was a conspiracy that was real. Gulf of Tonkin didn't exist. Tuskegee experiments. There's all types of conspiracies.
PJ, the fucking business plan. That's something I was like doing a little research on conspiracy theories for this show. Have you heard of the business plan?
The business plot, or is it
the
plan?
Business plot? Yeah, the business plot.
Or it might be plan. I can't remember. Like
it's
if it was called plot or plan.
Sounds better.
That was like during FDR's like in the 30s, right?
Yeah, it was orchestrated by George W.'s grandfather, so George Sr.'s
Prescott
father.
Bush.
Prescott Bush orchestrated it with a bunch of fucking business leaders from companies that still exist today, like GM, like Chase Bank, the DuPont family, to assassinate FDR and implement a fascist coup of America. It was a legitimate, real fucking thing that the government knew about, and then like said basically, yeah, no, this actually they did this, but we're cool that it didn't happen, so no fucking consequences for this behavior. That is a real thing that happened in human history, and then 2 of that man's fucking spawn became president of the United States. And it's insane, PJ. That sounds like something that I'd be like, I don't fucking believe that. But it's absolutely
yeah, it is. And well, what you got to remember, folks, with this, that these conspiracies make sense. right? These conspiracies have some sort of foundation. The United States government would love to mind control people, of course. Corporations would love to take over the government. The government wanted to gin up a war in Vietnam to defeat communism because they were in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. But you have to see conspiracies through that lens, because if there is no material benefit for the people perpetrating the conspiracy, you have to wonder if it's real or not. Like John mentioned with flat Earth, who gets anything? Who gains anything from the flat Earth? Nobody. There's no, like, every cartographer, every Navy, every space organization, every merchant vessel, every ancient sailor. Why are they all getting together and lying to you about the shape of the Earth for no benefit? Like, that's one of the things I asked you at the barbershop, and the guy said, well, I kid you not, his answer was, well, people do things sometimes without real motive. I said, no. I said, well, you're kind of turning these human beings into cartoon characters. That's not how people behave. People aren't going to burn all these calories trying to propagate this conspiracy when they don't benefit. And he says, well, I don't think these people are actually human. And my actual response was, okay, do you mean that literally or metaphorically, that they're not human? He goes, well, I mean, I think they're kind of like, demonic or something. I said, okay, well, then they could be anything. It could be fairies. It could be ghosts. It could be space travel or time travelers or anything. You're just making anything you want up right now. So with stuff like the flat Earth or the moon landing, even, I guess you could point to a material benefit from the moon landing for conspiracy.
The moon landing is one of the biggest ones where it's like, I understand why people believe that.
Yeah,
that one, totally 100% get it.
Yeah, that one you could at least argue that they want. But here's the counter, because the space race existed as an arms race against the Soviets to show who could have power over space. And the Soviets won everything until the moon landing. And so the fact that you could say, well, they lied about it to trick the Soviets could prove whether the U.S. went to them, right?
That's the biggest. It's like, if this was like a real conspiracy theory that like it actually was fake, the Soviets would have figure that out before Joe Smith, the YouTuber. Like, yeah, come on.
They'd be first in line talking about, no, there's no images of them. Like, we couldn't track them on radar. There's nothing there. And the Soviets never once denied it. It's like, oh, yep, they did it. Yep.
In fact, it's actually stunning they didn't. Like,
they didn't just lie.
Like in 2024, they would have lied their ass off about it. They would have fed the conspiracy theory. Like, they just didn't understand how to do like fucking. They did. Like, it was just so undeniable to their scientists, I guess. They had some fucking, I don't know, backbone or something to like be scientifically accurate that they wouldn't lie. But they would have. Like,
yeah. All right. I got to wrap up here. So on Thursday, we've got Nathan Rio joining us for the second time. He's a fantastic guest. Topics for next week or for Thursday, John. I was thinking, do you want to talk about Pete Hegseth or not? I don't know if I really want to.
So, Rio's also military, right?
I don't remember.
I feel like I thought he was.
Maybe he was.
I definitely, because there's a lot of angles to that story, and I feel like we could definitely cover it. And it could be good for the algorithm, and I wouldn't mind talking about it. If I had, other stories I'd rather talk about, I can knock it from the list. But it does seem to be a big thing right now.
No, So the Pete Hegseth thing, I've seen a lot of people talking about this. Like, they're showing, I think it was Tim Kaine who was grilling him saying, oh, you've been unfaithful to your spouses. You're having a kid. You cheated on your second wife with your current third wife, and you have a kid by her. I've seen a lot of people posting about this. I'm like, folks, why are we doing that? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all. Like, oh, Tim Kaine really burned Pete Hegseth. No one gives a fuck. No one cares at all.
You're taking my angle from me.
Well, that's why I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about it, because there's not much to say. It's like, yeah, the people voting for him don't care. The people who voted for Trump don't care. The people who don't know about it don't care. The only people who seem to care about it are people like us, where it doesn't matter at all. So I don't know. If you have other things, I'll gladly shelve Pete Hegseth. What do you got? But
I mean, that is so, like, we could shell Pete Hegseth, but that was kind of my like thing that I want to say is like, this feels like something that Democrats feel good dunking on him for, and get like little brownie points and feel good points, but like it doesn't change fucking anything. Like, I think that's the reason it's so over the media, because it gets fucking clicks, but like, he's gonna be confirmed. No one, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just,
it doesn't matter at all, right? Mark.
And, I'm fine with masturbate. Like, I masturbate all the time. Like it's not you know, it's not an anti-masturbation podcast, but you know, that's what you do.
Do you know why cornflakes exist? Do you know that like cornflakes were like the Kellogg, the guy who created it, he created cornflakes as a breakfast to stop young boys from masturbating. I shit you not. Yeah, I shit. All right. You know what? Kellogg is going to be talked about on Thursday. Kellogg, the guy who created Vaseline, ate a spoonful of Vaseline every day. I'm gonna start. All right, I'm gonna cover that. Listen. We'll save for Thursday. That's gonna be pretty good. But Mark Louderback says you should talk about the loudmouth Eagles fan. Did you see that clip, John?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that guy's an asshole. Assholes exist. You know, Eagles fans get a rep. It's one of those things where it's like it's not really true.
Didn't you guys boo Santa?
Yeah, no, we threw snowballs at him.
You threw snowballs at him. Okay.
Here's the thing about Eagles fans, TJ. Genuinely,
John should eat cornflakes.
That's a good one. Yeah, it's good. You know, like there's assholes in every fan base. That guy's a fucking dickhead. We disavow him. But like the thing that I hate about people who are like Eagles fans suck, opposing fans love it. Like when I'm at a tailgate and the opposing fans walk by and we start booing them, they're eating it up. They love it. The 99.9% of people love the experience of Philly fans booing them. And we do it in a totally consensual manner.
Yeah.
You'll also see plenty of opposing fans walk by that nothing happens. We don't care because they clearly don't want it. And there's very few instances like this one where there's a true asshole actually harassing someone. That does happen, but it happens in every sports arena across America.
They'd be disappointed if you guys didn't treat them like that. They'd feel cheated out of the experience.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
they want it. They want it. Thank you, Mark, for letting me get all my stuff down.
All right. So I want to bring up Israel. I feel like that's a good one to bring up with the ceasefire negotiations. And what else? Biden. I can't tell what I wrote down this last one. Oh, Red Notes. The other app that people are talking about. I didn't sign up for whatever, but I heard people. That could be a funny topic. The three TikTok creators.
It could. We also have the bill to limit trans women's participation in sports that we alluded to earlier. That I think could be a fun conversation for three straight cishet dudes.
I know, right? Yeah.
to have, you know, there's that.
All right, cool. All right, so it's good. All right, anything else to add, John? Before we close this?
Thank you guys for being here for our Tuesday Q&A. We'll be here every Tuesday at 6:30 EST. Come here prepared with questions. I feel like we did a good job addressing the comments section today, don't you?
I don't. I feel like I wish there was a way to like. When we leave the stream, the questions go away. I wish there was a way to keep them.
They still exist on YouTube. Like the YouTube ones exist. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But the problem is some of them are for your YouTube and some of them are for the left wing YouTube.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if they all see each other. I don't know if that's how that works. But I do know that who was it? Scott C. If Scott C is listening to this, he did offer to cut clips for us. So Scott C, if you're still listening to us, DM me on Instagram. I'll look at my requests and we'll talk because
Mark says you are a liar, John. He says they disappear.
Do they? I swear to God, maybe it's just like from our account that we can see them. Because I know, like when I'm in the left wing account and I go to see one of our previous lives, the comments show up.
Okay, I'll look into that then. All right, folks, we'll catch you guys Thursday.